Okay, everybody. This is week 6, I believe, of class, and this is the week that we begin in earnest. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to be doing for the rest of the semester. I haven't made a whole lot of videos or anything else for you until now because I just wanted you to have a little space so that you could acclimate yourself to the online thing, find your way around, get used to the templates that you need to use for the weekly writings, and find each other, group up, and figure out the whole group thing. This week is the very first week I've actually asked you to do work as a group, and the work that you are doing as a group from this point forward is really both a project that is like one big case study, and your organization is the case and you are studying it, and it's also the learning for the class. So we are going to use the information in the book, and from this point forward you will see that I will also give you some little lectures in case you're not sure about what's going on in the book. And we're going to create what will turn out to be our final report, and which will also be a final program review that you will be giving to your organization. Okay, so what you're seeing in front of you on the screen, aside from me in the corner there, is kind of the table of contents of what your final program review that you're going to hand to your organization will look like. I have not created a cover page here, and there will be things like a cover page and stuff like that. But if you think of this as the table of contents, every single page or every single section that you see here, these are things that are headlines that or headings of chapters that I took right out of the book. And if you look in the table of contents of your book, you will see that there are all these different chapters, and I happen to have put check marks here for the ones that I'm having you read, and all the other ones I'm not having you read. I want to make a comment before I get going in that even though I'm not having you read them, which is basically because the semester is only so many weeks long, I do want you to know that you might come across some particular problem or issue that your organization is experiencing, and you might want to cruise through some of those other chapters to see if any of them, you don't actually have to read them all, you can just look in the table of contents and see the description of what's in the chapters and see if there might be something there to help you. There is also a very big selection of other articles that I have just put in the course content area for you in case your organization has a particular kind of problem that you don't think is covered adequately, or you're still not sure what to do about something after you have read the book and you're trying to address an issue for your client. And of course, you can always Google, or you can ask me if you're not sure what to do about something. All right, so let's just dive in. And you can see here that section 1 of your final report is going to be planning a high impact volunteer program, and it's going to be based on the first chapter of your well, actually it's chapter 2 of your text, but the first one that I gave you to read and do as a template. And then each one of these takes a different chapter. Some of them might ask you to do some other things besides just those readings to go into those sections, but those are the section headings. So as you know, I did chapter 5. I don't know why I picked recruiting, but I did chapter 5 out of the book for you guys, and it turns out that that's actually section 4 because we started at chapter 2, but at any rate, I think I've misnamed it. But let's go down here. Obviously, in your own version, you're going to have sections 1, 2, and 3 before you get here, but I just want to show you what your final report will look like. This is actually what your final report will look like, and you have this sample in the course content folder, but you will see that this section, that part 1 of your final report, section 4, will be the written assignment that you did actually this is the one I did for you, but that you did for your chapter. And you will each have had, everybody in your group, whether there's 2 of you or 6 of you, everybody in your group will have read the text and written up each chapter that you were asked to read. So you don't want to put everything in there. You guys want to read each other's work and talk about, which is why you have these weekly meetings, talk about which pieces of each section you think are really the most important that you want to go in. After you read each other's work, I think, first of all, it will give you a broader idea of what's going on in people's minds about what they're reading. And also, you will see that somebody caught some main idea that you didn't catch, and you'll think, I missed that. So you guys will, pick and choose the best of what you have all put together, and you will create this part 1. And basically, regardless of which pieces you take from where, it will look exactly like the part 1 template. It will look exactly like the weekly writing assignment templates. This part 1 is recruiting, finding and recruiting the right people to your volunteer positions. And then it basically gives you recruiting volunteers who are a good match for your organization, etc. And then I've pulled, and I know I've gone over this before, but the 5 points that seem most meaningful to me as I read the chapter. And I think I said this in an earlier video, but you don't want to just pull their headings. They use the headings to break up the reading. The readings are kind of long. The chapters are kind of long. And so there's many more headings than there are actual main ideas. Some of the headings are sub-ideas. And what you want to capture in this first part are just the most important ideas. And then you're going to come down here and take them one at a time. So if you see A up here is understanding the skills sets necessary, etc. And then I've come down here, and one at a time I've laid A down here, and I've said making a position seem appealing to a recruit is best done by explaining how the volunteer job will meet a critical need or further your organization's mission, etc. And then I've pulled the best practices on this idea from the book, and those are A and B. I found what I thought were 2 best practices, and that's what I included. There could be many more best practices in any particular chapter, but this is what I thought. All right, and then I kept doing that. So first you have an explanation, and then you have the best practices. In this particular case, I found 4 best practices, and so on. All right, so when you get down to the bottom of this, all right, so right here, let's see if I can make this more visible for you. Right here where I have just shaded, that is actually the end of your writing assignment right there. So then the rest of that section in your final report looks like this. Part 2 is what they are currently doing. And I have used Radio Phoenix, which was an organization that we studied last year. And actually, I just pulled some stuff from some other students. I think I edited a little bit. But so part 2 is current recruitment strategies, and Radio Phoenix is their client. And it says Radio Phoenix has only one main recruitment strategy. The organization attends local festivals, and they set up a table and they walk around and talk to people about what they're doing and hand out flyers and information cards and hope that that nets them some volunteers. And what it says is our client's organization recruitment style has been pretty successful in reaching large groups of people, and they get to meet face-to-face with people and share their enthusiasm, and that has brought them some volunteers. Okay, so that's the only thing they do. That's it. What if they didn't do any recruiting? What if you had an organization who everybody who was a volunteer there right now was somebody's family member who was, a board member or something? What if it was a very small organization or just beginning, and the same people who were the board members are also like the staff members and the volunteers? They're all volunteers. If that's the case, then they're not doing any recruiting. And you would just say something like, this organization doesn't really do any recruiting. This entire organization is volunteer run. The people who are running it are volunteers. They came together of their own accord, and they haven't recruited anybody else yet. So what I'm getting at is, if there's almost nothing to say in that part 2, that's fine. In this case, there was one thing to say in part 2 about what Radio Phoenix does. There might be a lot that an organization does, or there might be nothing. It doesn't have to be long. This part 2 in this particular report section, you can see, I'm pointing, you can't see what I'm pointing at, but it's 1-2 paragraphs long. And if that's all it is, that's fine. Don't write a lot just to write a lot. If they aren't doing anything much, then however short it takes to say it is fine. Okay, now here comes part 3. This is where you guys need to be creative, and this is particularly why I require that you don't just chat or text these meetings, that you actually find a video chat forum where you can talk with each other. And somebody misunderstood me when I said Facebook chat and thought that I meant just plain old chat like you would do in a box, a message box, a private message. But that is not what I mean. If Facebook, you have to use their video conferencing, and they do have it if you choose to use Facebook. In fact, all of the ways that I have suggested require you to have a conversation that you can see each other on the screen. And the reason for that is a conversation is a lot different than going back and forth. In talking is just easier to get ideas across than typing and to understand each other. So the reason it's so important is because in this case, this is where your creative brains come in. So you've got a whole bunch of best practices up there, but only some of them will apply to your organization. And for you to figure out which of those best practices applies means you have to think about what each of those best practices is really useful for, and is that something that your organization needs? So, for example, Radio Phoenix needs some warm bodies. In other words, they need some untrained people that don't need to have any special skills. And this group, the team that did Radio Phoenix, recommended for warm bodies that they use an online media presence. In other words, social media. And it's an internet radio station, and so their listeners are likely to be very social media savvy. Right now, all they're using is going out to festivals. They're going out and being in person, but they're suggesting that they also use social media. And then they're talking about for targeted recruiting, which by the time you've read chapter 5, you'll know exactly what it is. But they're suggesting that Radio Phoenix connect with local colleges to offer internships to students studying engineering, music production, or journalism, etc. In other words, the kind of functions that the radio station needs to put its programming on. Radio Phoenix happens to only have one paid staff person, and that is a volunteer manager. And she was brand new last year when they did this for her. Okay, so then it says similarly connecting with local high school STEM programs where students might need community service hours. The students will love learning all the technology that goes into producing radio shows. Okay, and then it said Radio Phoenix can also do concentric circle recruiting, in that its entire staff are volunteers, and they're committed, and they're ambassadors, and they're enthusiastic, and if they talk about it, they can probably bring people in. And then lastly, they did suggest using a free third-party volunteer broker site. I don't know how appropriate that would be for for Radio Phoenix, but they thought that there might be sometimes, maybe when they're doing events or something, that they might want to go through Hands-On Greater Phoenix. And also, it's Hands-On Greater Phoenix does give you sort of an outlet to talk about your organization, and it's kind of like a little bit of PR. And that's the whole thing. So you've got, for every chapter or section of your report, and here's all the sections, you're going to do something that looks like this. You're going to slap in an edited version of your group's assignment for that week, your write-up about the chapter. And after you slap that in, you're going to slap in a section, could be very short. As I said, this one's only 2 paragraphs, but it could be long if they're doing a lot, that's what they are currently doing. In this case, it's current recruitment strategies. It might be current orientation strategies or current appreciation strategies. And then finally, the third section is going to be what you recommend. And you need to get creative. And if you are not sure what to recommend, or if you're not sure that you have identified their problems correctly that you should be addressing when you are making these recommendations, please email me. And also, if you guys want me to look at anything before you're ready to turn it in, or if you want to go back and work on it again and you just want a first opinion, I'm very happy to do that. And the reason I'm happy to do that is because A, you'll learn more, and B, the ultimate product for your client will be better. So I'm going to be doing office hours on your writing assignments. Only 2 people signed up, so but if anybody wants some help with that, I hope that you will find the email with the doodle poll link and sign yourself up so that I know what days are good for you guys. And in the end, we'll get you all there and all the teams. And as long as you can go back in as many times as you need to get it right, to get it the way you want it, and to get it good. And so everybody should ostensibly be able to get a perfect grade in this class, or at least a great grade in this class. So that is what it will look like. It will be 12 chapters or 12 sections in your report, and each one will have these 3 sections. You know, what the book is, kind of a summary of what the book is and the best practices, what the organization is doing right now, and what you recommend for them. And remember, this hard document is actually in the course content folder. And that's that.